Welcome to TerraOnTheBench.com. I'm Christin, your host. I'm your local environmental scientist and friend, and this is a place for us to have open discussion on eco, news, and lifestyle. This is the podcast and YouTube channel, and we have a lot to discuss. Let's get started.
Oh my gosh. Hi, welcome in. This is Christin from TerraOnTheBench.com. You're listening to the eco, news, and lifestyle genre of Terra on the Bench. The show where we, try to figure out how we've managed to set the planet on fire and why we can't seem to understand the severity of the right issues and dismiss the irrelevant ones. Like, for example, why are we happy Cardi B won a Grammy? Or why a certain woman in red usually also has the word red in her name, has vulgar naming conventions for her lip gloss. Priorities, right? No mention needed. No, you know who I'm talking about. I'm sure y'all know. Some may agree that it is subjective taste.
Allegedly.
Wrong. It's not. It's evident. It's not something we need to be focused on. It's so mind-numbing that we're allowing kids to listen to. That's not even besides the point, right? Okay. Anyway. It's not relevant. It's evident. Incorrect. I'm not hearing anything about it. Okay. We need to be focused on relevant topics. So, you guessed it. Today we're diving into some seriously hot water. Pun intended. Because sea surface temperatures are rising. And the atmosphere and our planet is warming up exponentially. So I'm talking about rapid deregulation of environmental law, the changes to the EPA and climate policy in 2025. These are some of the issues that we're going to be talking about today. So hold on to your seatbelts, gentlemen and gentlewomen, etc. It's going to be an asphalt covered road ride. And no, this isn't a thrill-seeking adventure. It's a dumpster fire of global proportions. So, grab your reusable coffee mug, the one that you did not bring and forgot to use, and let's get into it. We didn't even get so far into the year yet, but we're already seeing drastic changes to environmental policy and law, and many executive orders have been signed already. But since this is a more climate friendly climate involved show, we're talking about the ones that are relevant. So we've seen an avalanche of policies being rolled back, laws gutted, and the environmental watchdog, the EPA, the ones turned into something that looks less like an enforcement body and more like a cheerleader, trying to propel the purposes of these industries. And they're cheering on the very industries that they're meant to regulate. Yeah, so that is America we're living in. But, don't worry. I'm here to just point fingers. I mean, I'm not here to point fingers. Maybe a little. We'll get into how we can actually make a difference, though. So let's start off with where the EPA is currently in regulation and in leadership. So who's running it? Has Trump's goodbyes to the federal agency leaders also include the EPA leaders? So let's find out. Now, let's take a look at the EPA. What did they release on the leaders and changes to environmental policy? Now, on January 29th of 2025, Lee Zeldin was sworn in as the 17th EPA administrator. And in these documents here, he says here, "It's my honor to serve as the 17th Environmental Protection Agency Administrator. Under President Trump's leadership, we will take great strides to defend every American's access to clean air, clean water, and clean land. We will maintain and expand the gold standard of environmental stewardship and conservation that President Trump set forth in his first administration, while also prioritizing economic prosperity. I look forward to working with the agency's talented staff and scientists to deliver results for the American people. It's time to get to work," said EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. He's being sworn in. Look at that. Look. It's so great. He's being sworn in. See, look. He's being sworn in. I know he's really happy about this, right? He has dedicated his life to public service. He is currently in his 22nd year in the United States military. Wonderful, awesome. At just 23, Lee became the youngest attorney in New York State at the time. Hi, I'm from New York State. But also, he was born and raised in Suffolk County, New York, and so on, and other irrelevant things. But listen. Okay, that all sounds nice, right? Okay. But then let's take a look at this, right? He goes on to give a presentation and speak to us. So here in this video, Administrator Zeldin announces 31 historic actions to power the great American comeback. Let's see what he says here.
Today, I'm pleased to make the largest deregulatory announcement in U.S. history.
Deregulatory sounds crazy.
The Environmental Protection Agency is initiating 31 historic actions to fulfill President Trump's promise to unleash American energy, revitalize our auto industry, restore the rule of law.
And by revitalize, he means emit more, don't worry about combustion. Continue.
And give power back to the states. EPA will be reconsidering many suffocating rules that restrict nearly every sector of our economy.
See, when they say restricting rules, they mean they don't like all the rules and regulations that keep our air clean, that keep our waters clean, that keep our respiratory systems nice and clean. We like to breathe right?
And cost Americans trillions of dollars.
Because of
our actions
reviews.
Include the Biden administration's deeply flawed Clean Power Plan 2.0, mercury and air toxic standards.
See, and you know what's crazy too about this? He was just sworn in earlier in the year. When did we say it was? On January 19th. And just at the beginning of the year, we started seeing new changes, new policies being implemented by Mr. T himself. So think of the timeline here, right? We're getting rid of all these administrators and professionals already in the fields and the agencies that we know and love. And then we have him who just came into office. And now we're seeing him say, oh, these are wasteful uses of law and policy, wasting time because they don't want to regulate law and policy now. And he's a good friend of Mr. T. He's a good friend of Mr. T.
2.5. Light, medium, and heavy car and truck rules, NESHAPs, and the so-called social cost of carbon. To advance cooperative federalism, EPA will partner with states that were universally rejected by the last administration's Good Neighbor rule. Among many other actions, today's momentous day also includes the 2009 endangerment finding, along with all actions that rely on it.
Wasteful.
I've been told the endangerment finding is considered the holy grail of the climate change religion. For me,
it's not a religion.
The U.S. Constitution and the laws of this nation.
We're not obsessed.
Strictly interpreted and followed. No exceptions. Today, the Green New Scam ends as the EPA does its part to usher in the golden age of...
This is how we know we're in the movie Idiocracy. Look at what he just said.
Today,
look at what he says.
Scam ends.
The Green New Scam ends. So now green concern is a scam. You know what was a scam? Oh, let me not say it. I don't think I'm there yet to say something like that. Anyway, let me not say that. So yeah, he thinks it's
its part to usher
a green new scam.
The golden age of American success.
And he calls it the golden age of success. How are we hearing an EPA administrator saying a green new scam? It's a total contradiction to what the EPA was standing for and what it works on and what it tries to protect. It's like we're in a multiverse. It's insane. Okay? Absolutely insane. And let me show you a few examples of some of the historic changes that they have been implementing already. Today, EPA Administrator Zeldin announced the following actions. For example, unleashing American energy, reconsideration of regulations on power plants, which are the clean power plants, reconsideration of regulations throttling the oil and gas industry, meaning they want to reconsider the laws and policies that limit too much fracking, that limits all the oil and all the oil exploitation that there is? Why are we ruining our soils, damaging our grounds, taking up more space, them cutting down our trees, which is the most wonderful carbon sink, in my opinion. Oh, no, because we want to make money. We want to build houses. We want to build. Reconsideration of mandatory greenhouse gas reporting programs, reconsideration of limitations, guidelines, and standards, reconsideration of wastewater regulations for oil and gas, reconsideration of Biden-Harris administration risk management program, lowering the cost of living for American families. In heart of that, he wants to reconsider technology transition rules that forces companies to use certain technologies that increased costs on food in grocery stores. Okay, people might like that. Okay. But what about reconsideration of light duty and heavy duty regulations that provide the foundations for the Biden-Harris electric vehicle mandate? I remember when that was first implemented, I was so excited. I said, I'm going to get me an electric car immediately. And you can get a tax rebate. But I mean, thanks to these reconsiderations, you might not be getting your tax rebate. You may not. These changes might take effect immediately. And they already are. You know, you could read more about it. It's straight on the EPA website. Good information. I suggest you form your own opinion, learn about these things, and just understand, ask yourself why things are taking place. How is this going to affect people in our community and our planet? So yeah, I'd say just definitely do that. So let's start with and do that. It's almost as if someone sat down in a smoky back room, looked at the decades of hard-won environmental laws and thought, no, let's make it all easier. Let's just get rid of it. Let's destroy it. This is what's going on. That's actually what's happening. Anyway, over the past few months, we've seen a flurry of rollbacks, Clean Air Act standards, reduced water protections for wetlands and streams, gone. Oh, and let's not forget about the nosy, nasty, pesky regulations that actually keep greenhouse gas emissions in check. We talked about that. So let's take a look at another informative piece from the New York Times. Now, this piece here is quite interesting because it gives us a little bit more insight as to the policies that Trump has been taking away. Now, the Trump administration rolled back more than 100 environmental rules. Here's the full list. Now, let's scroll down. We've got a little summary here. Rule reversals, air pollution and emissions. There have been 28 completed environmental rules that have been rolled back. Drilling and extraction, 12. Infrastructure and planning, 14. Animals, ESA concerns, right? Endangered Species Act. Animals, 15. Water pollution, like Clean Water Act. 8. Toxic substances and safety, like RCRA, Resource Conservation Recovery Act, and many others. That's crazy. That's crazy. In progress. Man, this is crazy. At the same time, the Interior Department worked to open up more land for oil and gas leasing by limiting the wildlife protections and weakening environmental requirements for projects. And this is very, 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 very bad because I personally know what this is doing. And I know the changes that have been implemented already this year. I'm an environmental professional. I'm an environmental scientist. I work with these laws and these policies. And it's public information, so I'm not exposing anything I'm not supposed to. This is information that is in laws and policies. And I just worry about the nonprofits, too, that work specifically toward a specific genre. For example, conservation, riverkeeper nonprofits, right? They have to be working with the Clean Water Act. So now that they're limiting the regulation process, EPA, for clean water how are they going to prosper? And actually, they might even work a little bit harder because they know that's their niche and they have to work to protect it and the jobs of themselves. Okay. So now, this is crazy. Straight from the White House website, we see a post here from the president: unleashing American energy by the authority vested in me as president by a constitution and the laws of the United States of America. It is hereby ordered. Section 1, background. And he says, America is blessed with an abundance of energy and natural resources that have historically powered our nation's economic prosperity. In recent years, burdensome and ideologically motivated regulations have impeded the development of these resources, limited the generation of reliable and affordable electricity, reduced job creation, and inflicted high energy costs upon our citizens. These high energy costs devastate American consumers by driving up the cost of transportation, heating, utilities, farming, and manufacturing, while weakening our national security. It is thus in the national interest to unleash America's affordable and reliable energy and natural resources. This will restore American prosperity, including for those men and women who have been forgotten by our economy in recent years. So in section 2 of the policy, he writes, to encourage energy exploration and production on federal lands and waters, including our outer continental shelf, in order to meet the needs of our citizens, to establish our positions as a leading producer and processor of non-fuel minerals, including rare earth materials, meaning we're going to dig more, dig. That's what he said, right? To protect the United States' economic and national security and military preparedness, that an abundant supply of reliable energy is readily accessible in every state. So these are just the things. To eliminate the electric vehicle mandate and promote true consumer choice, which is essential for economic growth and innovation, by removing regulatory barriers to motor vehicles access. It's talking about electric vehicles. So there's so much here. So much. Oh my gosh, that's insane. So these are the things that we're seeing already taking place. And why? Because certain people in power think it's better for businesses to breathe freely, like really freely, like not the good, clear esophagus freely, but freely as in removing those regulations, because who needs clean air or water? Why do we need that when you've got quarterly profits to show, right? Look, I'm not saying businesses shouldn't thrive because people have a livelihood. People have to be paid to live, right? They have kids, they've got dogs. But what's the point of profit if the planet's a smoking crater and your house is going to be burned down and you have to get money to build it again, right? Well, you want money, yes, but you also don't want your house burned down because of climate action, climate concerns, climate situations, natural disasters that have been prompted due to the actions that are angering the planet enough to make your house burn down. Because why? There's a wildfire. It's too hot. The planet's too hot. It's getting hotter. So do we think about these things? Do we think about these connections? People with money don't really think about those connections. People who like money and like power don't think about those connections because they're so stuck in their ways of wanting to get money and be the best that there is. I want to be the best that there is at letting you know what's going on. But what's the point? You're going to get to retire at the Bahamas. They don't have to worry about that. They're going to be in their nice little beach while people are just wasting. You're thinking about wanting to go to the Bahamas. But what if we can't get there when you retire because the Bahamas is going to be overflowed? Like our sea surface levels are going to rise so much. I mean, they might not actually do that, but I'm here to try to explain to you that there are connections here. Everything is interconnected, The beach might not actually be underwater. That's what they say. Scientifically, we have to confirm that. So far, if you've been listening this long, I want to thank you. Yes. Let me know in the comments your thoughts of what's been said and shown so far. How do you feel about these new regulations and these policies being implemented and what we covered today? Please feel free to comment on this video, and please review my podcast on Apple Podcasts. That'll help me a lot. I'm trying to grow this channel and express the importance of our planet and culture in relation to the planet. Okay, I want to get everybody's attention on these things because it's a livelihood. I'm an environmental scientist and I want to be a friend of people who want to know about these things. Okay, so please, support me in those ways. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, subscribe to me on my website, visit my website, join my newsletter, and I want to get this information out. If you want to partner in some type of way, please contact me. Thank you. Now, let's talk about the EPA, the agency that was supposed to safeguard our environment. Remember that thing from high school civics class? Yeah, it's like the EPA has been, rebranded. It's almost like it went from the Environmental Protection Agency to the Environmental, please don't wreck us too badly, agency. For the first time in history, we've seen leadership changes in the EPA that seem more motivated by big business ties than the actual environment. And we're talking about rule makers who have no idea what it's like to live in a world where clean air is a luxury. And with each passing regulation, it's like a magic trick. Voila, right? And your protections just vanish like they were never there. For example, we now have things like the rollback of car emission standards. Like I said, we have things like the rollback of car emission standards. So you could be driving a gas guzzling monster like a Hummer. I see a few people still driving a Hummer. Like, where's your mind? But that's pouring out fumes like it's a demolition derby. And it's not okay. Apparently, the air doesn't need to be as clean as the water that's being used to make your bottled water. But, who's actually keeping track, right? You can do what you want, apparently. Also, I just want to let you guys know that this podcast is sponsored by Terra on the Bench. Yay! Thank you. Thank you so much for continuing to listen. We have one more segment to go. In this next segment, we'll be discussing Cory Booker, the senator of New Jersey, who spoke for a 25-hour record on the Senate floor, imposing and critiquing and criticizing many of Trump's laws and actions thus far. It was amazing. I don't even know how he did it. Actually, I do, because he explained it in an interview, and we're going to discuss that coming up. You know what I feel like, though? I feel like humanity has entered into the age of climate amnesia. We have selective amnesia, where we selectively choose what we want to forget. But this is like climate amnesia. Like, what is global warming? What's someone else's problem? Rising sea levels? Where? No, that's someone else's problem, right? Let's just keep ignoring it, until the water goes up to our necks. And hopefully you can swim, because you're going to need to, I know a few swim coaches, they could teach you how to swim before we get there. But for the people who want to make a difference, let's do that, okay? I get it too. Climate change can feel very overwhelming, like staring into a dark hole. And it's more like a burden of knowledge sometimes. But it's important to know. We live here. We love our planet, right? It's a problem that nobody really wants to tackle. It's the thing. The longer we ignore it and allow these things to take place, the harder it becomes to deal with it. It's like putting off going to the dentist. You got to. You have to. If you don't, things are going to be worse. Sure, you can skip a few checkups, ignore it, maybe, but one day you're going to have to face it. Hey, I'm not here to make you feel hopeless. Far from it, Like I said, I love conversation, discussion. I'm your friend. I would love for us to discuss these things. If you are the type of person that gets anxiety from environmental concerns and topics like this, talk to me about it. We can discuss it, and we can even concoct a plan to contribute to the efforts away from these things. Like, how can we solve this problem, right? How can we bring more insight to these issues so that people who aren't familiar with environmental problems and climate change, how do we get them to be interested in it and know more about it? I want you to feel empowered, because the reality is, yes, we've been handed a streaming pile of, let's call it regulatory mess. Messy. But it doesn't have to stay that way. We can work together. That's what the world and planet is. People working together. How do we get one place to the other? We work together, right? Now, let me make something clear. I'm not going to judge anyone for their habits or their hobbies. I mean, I might just a little bit. But this isn't some high horse lecture, right? I'm not going to lecture you about how you're killing the planet, because everyone, including myself, has some part to play, large or small. And I'm not going to put the blame on one person, because it's more of a larger scale issue. Companies, corporations, people who have the power to do these things, they are the ones who do the most mess. Okay? Seriously, if I'm being honest, half of the time I'm wondering how I'm going to survive on my third cup of coffee, let alone saving a whale or a polar bear, you know. But there's the thing, we all have a role to play, whether it's whether it's reducing your carbon footprint, voting for people who can actually care about the planet and our environment, or holding businesses and governments accountable. That's the big one right there, because they have the most power and money. It's not about being perfect. It's about making a choice that leans towards sustainability. Happened to my camera there, but I'm asking you. You're probably trying to figure out if you're too busy to give a damn about this. I would just say just start somewhere. It doesn't have to be this monumental task or picketing out front of the White House or anything life-changing. Start with one thing, but fewer single-use plastics, maybe walk or bike driving. Do something. Obviously, we hear these things, right? Or, maybe just use your voice in a way that makes it impossible to ignore. If you have that type of personality where you can speak loudly, get people's attention, use that skill to do that. And you know what? Challenge your own thoughts about what climate policy should look like. Learn about the implementation of laws that protect our environment, The truth is, people often think climate laws are complicated and boring, but it's really not. It's interesting, it's interconnected to socioeconomics, justice, and everything. They affect everything. Your health, your future, your kids, your income, your possibility for retirement. And if we don't get involved now, well, where's that retirement? And if we don't get that involved now, where's your retirement fund? Where's your retirement destination? Well, it's going to be the same as sitting by a dumpster fire as it's burning out of control. Here's the good news, though. When we talk, we can make a change. When we show up, things can shift. It's really about taking those steps, even if they're small at first. You may not be able to overhaul the whole government, sure, in one sitting. Collectively, we can make a difference is what this is. We want to build a community of connectedness. But you sure as hell cannot call a senator. But you sure can't call a senator and ask why they voted to let a coal company dump waste into clean water. You can speak up for your community. You can demand better regulations. And more importantly, you can make choices that matter. So listen, it's not hopeless. It's just a little grim, but we've got this. We can handle this. We can do this. It's no biggie. And while the government may be tearing down environmental protections faster than a kid with scissors and a coloring book, we have the power to rebuild. One policy, one vote, one choice at a time. On Monday, March 31st, Cory Booker, Senator of New Jersey, spoke for a record 25 hours on the Senate floor. You can watch some of his many-part videos. There's 3 to 4 different parts, all lasting more than 2 hours. Parts of his speech from the Senate floor where he spoke for 25 hours straight. Well done. Amazing. And the whole time he was opposing Trump's administration. Yes. Added to a very passionate speech at that. Someone has to do it. So thank you. Thank you so much, sir. He said in an interview after the speech that he didn't eat for a couple days and he didn't even drink any water. Because I had asked, I was like, why did you do that? Like, where did you go to the bathroom? And he just didn't eat or fuel up before because he knew he was going to be talking that long. He had a lot to say. A lot to say. You got to be an alien to be able to do that. A good alien at that. He's a good alien. Okay. Wild. By noon, though, Booker highlighted concerns over environmental policies, specifically the rolling back of regulations, ensuring clean air and water. He warned that such actions threaten public health and hinder efforts to combat climate change. Let's take a look. So here on his website, he talks about climate change.
Mr. President,
this was
I'm
on
grateful
Thursday.
to have just a brief
So this is what he shares.
moment.
He basically just puts a snippet of his climate change section of his speech. Let's listen.
Moved to see virtually all of the globe represented by leaders, heads of state, members of parliament, NGOs, corporations, major global dominant corporations. Everyone was there. It was an array of the planet coming together, focused on this issue of the impacts of climate change. Conversations ranged from focusing on us being innovative in how we are dealing with renewable technology so that technology can be a great pathway towards sustainability in the future, all the way to resiliency and making sure that we are doing the things to protect populations from the effect of climate change, especially when it comes to poor populations who are disproportionately affected.
Why is it so easy for some political figures to know this, to understand it? And then we have people who are even in higher positions than him who don't get it. Are you that disconnected from reality and people, like everyday people, Mr. T?
I had the chance, the honor while I was there, leading a bilateral conversation with Bangladesh, talking to peer leaders, the United States sitting down at the table.
I know a few Bengali
the
individuals.
We had
They're very
ministers and parliamentary members from Bangladesh. By many estimates, Bangladesh is the most vulnerable country on the globe to climate change, the most vulnerable large country to climate change. It's about the size of Iowa. It's facing serious challenges with the melting off the Himalayas, as well as
they get a lot of rain over there
levels.
too.
Due to climate change, Bangladesh right now is losing 1% of its arable land each year, and is projected over the next decade or so, leading into 2030, to lose a large percentage of their land, including displacing millions and millions of Bangladeshi, literally creating climate refugees. And the sea levels rising are really predicted to inundate about 15% of the land area, and creating these refugees makes it a reality for them that is so urgent that they came there with a large degree of mission to join with other global actors. I was proud to be able to sit with them and talk to them about New Jersey, not only a state that has 75,000 people who are Bangladeshis, but also a state that knows that our economy.
That's normal. That's normal for an alien to be able to speak that long. I didn't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying, like, if you, how do you speak for 25 hours? Good stuff too. It's like you're a generator. You just keep generating information. Sir, I admire that.
Our strength as a state will be affected by climate change as well. We're already seeing what's happening with the warming of our oceans, the acidification of our oceans, how it's affecting the many jobs that are related to our fishing industry. We're already seeing the challenges with our climate in terms of increased weather activity and severe storms. This is an issue that affects America that we cannot solve without joining with the rest of the globe.
Exactly. Interconnectedness. Everybody is interconnected. We need to work together. Stop trying to be the top of the globe of everything, every industry, every institution, every talent, skill that you have to make money. This is your home, people.
We know that the injustices that are happening to our nation in terms of increased fires, in terms of displacement of our seas, the challenges that are being faced with weather activity internally in our country. We know that these issues cannot be solved locally unless we deal with them globally. And that's why I'm grateful for all of those who understand that American leadership is incredibly needed. I'm proud to stand here with colleagues of mine. Leadership
the policies and tasks that are supposed to help us and keep us interconnected and keeping our environment and planet safe.
Continue to send a strong message to the rest of the globe that we are here in the United States strongly supporting the ambitious commitments of President Obama, the ones that he is making, that we will defend those communities that are facing this crisis in the immediate long term. We will be leaders. And with that, I just want to say one of my colleagues and someone who I've come to respect quite a bit was an incredibly strong voice in Paris, someone who is committed to these issues.
Yeah, in Paris. We pulled out of the Paris Climate Agreement. That's another story.
Not only in her home state, but as an American across our country, I would like to now, Mr. President, be able to engage and acknowledge Senator Jeanne Shaheen.
See, like I said, he knows what he's saying. Mr. Booker. Senator Booker, excuse me. You deserve Senator as the title at the beginning, not Mr. Anyway, that was awesome. And, you know, people always have something negative to say. On NPR, they shared a snippet of Senator Booker's speech. But, you know, a lot of people have something really mean to say. And for one person, when asked for a comment on Booker's speech before he set the record, a White House spokesperson, they're not giving a name, it could just be someone who works at the clerical office or something, issued a statement to several news outlets. Okay, and they said, Cory Booker is looking for another I am Spartacus moment, but that didn't work for his failed presidential campaign, and it didn't work to block President Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Brett Kavanaugh. When will he realize it's not Spartacus? He's a spook. Harrison Fields said in a statement. Oh, okay, so it was a person, Harrison Fields. Who is that? I don't need to know who that is. Anyway, it's just like negativity, right? For somebody who's trying to present an issue and somebody has to say something that negative, right? It's just not right. It doesn't make sense. Okay. Hence Idiocracy, the movie in real life, live action, 2025. Okay. So, all right, friends, I'll leave you with this. Don't sit on the sidelines, you know, speak up, act, care about this planet like it's your home, like it's your living room, right? Unless you don't take care of your living room, then I get it. I don't agree with it, but that's just how you live, right? Care about this planet, not because it's convenient, but because it's essential for everyone. Don't be inconsiderate, because it's essential for everyone. Don't be inconsiderate, you know, worry about, take care of everyone. Take care of yourself first, of course, so that you can help in small ways for other people. And if we all take responsibility, maybe, you know, just maybe, we can steer the runaway train back onto the tracks. Okay. So I'll see you next week. Next time, not the same place, not the same time, hopefully with less fire in the air, hopefully better lungs, hopefully better respiratory system, hopefully less burning in the air, hopefully just better things, right? So thanks so much for listening to TerraOnTheBench.com, and stay woke, stay green, stay caring for others and the planet and your world and your life and your planet and your waters and all that. Please visit my website, read my blog posts, visit my YouTube channel, and help me grow my channel, because I want to reach more people, share more information, and talk about these things, make a friend or two, you know. They want to be a friend, and let me just be your friend. Okay. You can connect with me via Instagram, my website, as well as my email. Email me pictures that you want me to talk about in my other segments. And please review and comment on my Apple Podcast or whatever podcast streaming service or platform that you use. Please review it. Spread the wonderful messages of TerraOnTheBench.com, and share your views and comments. What stood out to you the most today? What is one thing that you would like to see in our policy changes that have not been discussed, or that have been discussed, but you don't quite agree with how it's being presented and other details? In conclusion, we talked about the deregulation processes. In conclusion, we talked about many deregulation changes that have taken place with our environmental and climate change policies, specifically the EPA working towards deregulating these laws and policies that they are supposed to be implementing. But now that we have a new leader, Lee Zeldin, he's a friend of Mr. T. So what else can I say? Things are going to change. So that's scary. And we have some hope, though, because Senator Booker has some common sense and some care for people other than himself. And I appreciate that. I feel like there's hope because people like him and myself like to think that there are other people who do agree with this and are wanting to bring attention to this and to show that it's not about the money. It's not about resource exploitation to try to one up another person. It's about living together, loving the world that we were put on, and just being here, happy. So don't get your hopes up. Work together. Use your voice. Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you. And we have a lot of great things to discuss in the future and next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.